George is the ambassador. They brought all the heads. I don't know how many, very few people probably know this, but Marvin was friends with George in New York and a customer of Davidoff, and he told George he wanted to do a cigar magazine. Can you introduce me and bring some people together from the industry? And George did that with Fuentes and the Padrones and all the great guys that are in the business, and with me too. And you know, I was skeptical about a cigar magazine at the time. I was skeptical about advertising, and it just wasn't what we were used to. And George convinced me that this is something I had to be a part of.
Yep.
And so the cigar magazine had just started that year, and we were all excited. And I'll never forget the day that George calls me and says, "Marvin's going to call you and talk to you about advertising in the magazine." And I was sitting in my one-bedroom apartment in Beverly Hills, you know, and I get this call, and Marvin says, with his great New York style and spirit and energy, he says, "Danny, George tells me you're the best humidor maker, you gotta be in my magazine." I says, "Okay, wow, that sounds interesting." And
how much does it cost?
"I don't know if I can afford it." He said, "Trust me, you have to be in the magazine, it's gonna change your life." And I says, "Okay, how much?" He said, "I don't know." He told me how much it was going to be, and I said, "Really, I don't know. Let's see. I have to get back with you." He says, "Mortgage your house to do this. You've got to do it."
He believed in you.
He believed in me.
Really did believe in you.
He said, "Mortgage your house." I says, "I have an apartment," and then he invited me to the Big Smoke in New York, the first Big Smoke. Mm-hmm. It was insane. The people, they loved it, went there to New York. They loved the humidors. The energy, enthusiasm, excitement was there, and George was just leading the charge. And he got everybody together, rallied up, and it was really an exciting moment. And it absolutely changed my life, no doubt about it. And it allowed us to build our own brand, because for all these years, it was Tiffany, not Daniel Marshall for Tiffany. It was
We've been
Dunhill.
saying over and over and over
Nat
again,
Sherman.
you have to make your brand.
Exactly. And there was only one company, Neiman Marcus, I did business for, that allowed me to use the Daniel Marshall.
Yeah.
But that's when George was just so instrumental and so helpful, because when they wrote the review on humidors, they took one of my travel humidors I made for Dunhill, and he got it from Dunhill, and they reviewed it. But in the description it said, "Alfred Dunhill by Danny Marshall." Yeah. And so all of a sudden people were wondering, who's this Danny Marshall guy? So
it worked.
It worked, and you know, another fun story, and it's really, whenever you
should
do
tell
something,
about Jack's neighbor on the hill, who lived above him.
Santo Pietro.
Well, no, forget. Don't tell any stories about Georgia. We don't want anybody to hear about that. Marlon. Brando.
Oh, yeah.
Brando. Nicholson owned the house that was right above Marlon's mountain. I mean, right below.
Marlon Brando was really growing up since he had a Tahiti connection, and I love Tahiti and escaping. And Marlon, in the movie, I didn't know him personally, but in the movie Mutiny on the Bounty, that was me. I wanted to mutiny, to jump ship, go to Tahiti, and
stay there.
You know, stay there and live this kind of life. And so Marlon loved Tahiti. So when I got a call from him, and he said that he wanted to get a humidor, I was really, really excited, because I said, "Marlon Brando smokes cigars. Wow, that's impressive. You never know who smokes cigars, you know, that they hide it from the public. Or
Marlon used to have a locker in Dunhill in New York.
Yeah,
I'm sure he had one in L.A. too, but he had one in New York that he used to raid.
The oddest thing about this, and maybe he called me because he knew that I liked Tahiti so much, but I says, "You're a cigar smoker?" He says, "Occasional, but that's not what I want the humidor for. I don't want anything on the inside. No humidification system, nothing, no trays, nothing." It was the biggest humidor we made. It's, you know, this big. I said, "What are you going to use it for?" And he said, "Well, I'm going to send it to Tahiti, and I'm going to put my scripts in it." I said, "Really?" He says, "Because my scripts are molding and falling apart, and I want your humidor to keep the humidity out. Because in Tahiti, I don't know if you guys have been there, but it's like 85% humidity most of the time, and it will just ruin paper." And so that was my Marlon Brando experience.
Did he actually? Do you know if he actually it made it to Tahiti?
Oh, yeah.
Because he was the king of starting things and not finishing.
And then the greatest thing too was when I got a letter from George Burns, And I would come to New York, and I became friendly with George's nephew. And his brother's son had a clothing line in New York, and he helped kind of guide me with ideas of how to sell to Barney's and how to sell to the department stores, and because I sold at some of these other places besides Dunhill and all. And so I would hang out at his place and stay with him. His name was Mark Birnbaum, which is actually George Burns' last name, Birnbaum. And so I said, you know, Mark said to me, we got to do a humidor. It's my uncle's 91st birthday, and let's make him a humidor. I says, absolutely. So we got a letter back. It's a great letter. Uncle Nat, he says, you know, really, the humidor is much too beautiful for the cigars I smoke. And I so appreciate the gesture, but I send you my best wishes, but, you know, and all this.
And signed Uncle Nat.
And signed Uncle Nat.
And we did the same thing to send him a Davidoff, a special Davidoff cigar from the beginning of the white label time. And he sent back a letter which said, I appreciate your gift of this fine cigar, but I found out how much it cost. I'm not sure I want to sleep with it or smoke it. Uncle Nat.
Amazing.
It was great,
cool.
man. It was extraordinary.
It was cool. And another fun project was a friend of mine ran the holding company for Prince Rainier called SBM Holding, and they owned the casino and they owned a lot of property in Monaco. And he was quite a character, this guy called Bernard Kumblemal. And he said, Danny, the Prince doesn't smoke, but you make beautiful boxes, so make me the most outrageous, most expensive, most crazy thing you can think about. So I took one of the Dunhill tobacco humidors where loose tobacco goes in, had the 2 vials, stripped it out, and I said, let's make him a tissue box, the world's most expensive tissue box. And so my friend loved it, and he sent me the swatch from the couch, which had the double R's and the crown on it, the insignia. And so I had my German jeweler in downtown make the silver logos. We inlaid them all in the top 4, one for each of the palaces in France. And we shipped them, I remember, in a big wood-lined box. And they call us from the palace and they say, what's inside? They thought it was a bomb, you know? So the prince got it and put them around. And he sent me a copy of the letter he sent to my friend. And it said, Dear Bernard, I love the tissue boxes so much. Every time I blow my nose, I'm going to think of you. And then that gave me an idea. Okay, now I have tissue boxes. Maybe I can sell it to this store on Sunset where they're known for very eccentric, beautiful, most expensive things. And Lee Annenberg came into that store and was friends with President Reagan. And she picked up the tissue box, and they called me all excited from Elizabeth, the owner of the store, says, Danny, got good news. They're going to give you one of your boxes to President Reagan, and you need to put a plate on the inside. I said, so let's figure out what to say. How about blow elegantly, Mr. President? Yeah, right. And so that was the start. And then we did different humidors. You
did jelly bean containers for him?
Yeah, not jelly bean, but that was interesting because during Ronald Reagan's governorship and presidency, he was known to give visitors jelly beans in a jar with the presidential seal and a message. And I'll never forget the day when Governor Schwarzenegger became governor, and we're celebrating the inauguration at a place called the Sutter Club in Sacramento. Yeah. And right after the inauguration, there was about 800 people in this room, this club. And I said, congratulations, Governor. He says, where are they? I said, what? Where are the cigars with my name on them? I says, you're going to give out cigars? He says, why not? So he gave out for 7 years of cigars as kind of like the gift for dignitaries and people that came. They're quite a coveted.
Yeah, but the part you're missing is that they were Daniel Marshall cigars.
Daniel Marshall cigars.
And that's sort of where we are in the evolution of this. Is that as the humidor business expanded and you had more and more special customers. Remember the idea? We got to have some cigars to put in this, because Arnold was the first one to say to you,
yeah,
how come I'm getting this humidor and there's no cigars in it?
That's right. How can I give a humidor away without full of cigars? It's an incomplete gift. And at the big smokes, many people would say, hey, you make the best humidor in the world. We can count on you to make an amazing cigar because you're so fanatical about the quality and the detail. Why don't you do it? And for years, that idea was sort of languishing around. And then George introduced me to Manuel Quesada, really who I call the gentleman in the cigar business. He's a class act,
great man,
fantastic human being. And we became friends during the big smoke tour all over the country. And I asked him during the cigar boom, when all of us I couldn't make enough humidors.
Nobody could get cigars
No one could
either.
produce enough cigars.
Yeah.
And I said, Manuel, would you make me a cigar? Immediately he said, yes, we'll work it out. And he should ship me 5,000 cigars a month from Dominican factory. And we made a special deal too in the beginning where he said, let's trade because I want to do some beautiful packaging for the cigars. And he ordered 5,000 beautiful black matte boxes, different sizes and shapes for a cigar line, which is a very special limited edition cigar line. So he would send the cigars, I'd send the humidors. It's this kind of friendship. Handshake, no deal, amazing. No money was exchanged. And I got cigars during an impossible time and was able to launch my brand in 1996. And I tell you, he would tell me, Lou Rothman is so mad at me because, you know, he's coming. Why are you making cigars for Danny Marshall? You don't make me enough Romeo and Juliet. But it shows you the power of friendship, the power of what can happen with cigar friendship and what.
And that cigar evolved, and it showed it demonstrated the power of humidor aging. And people started to go, wow, this Danny Marshall cigar is a Manolo Quesada cigar, and they would really get enthusiastic about it, and it started. But like other ways that you have anticipated things that happened in the market, you started to recognize that we needed to change the Danny Marshall blend. And the evolution became what you have in your hand right now, what I'm smoking too, the DM2, which is what we've actually been offering to all of you this week. And tell them about it, because Manolo struck gold when he decided to make something that was a big leap of faith for him, to make a cigar outside of the Dominican Republic using Nicaraguan tobacco.
Absolutely. Well, and over this period of years, when I was having a Dominican-made cigar, Connecticut wrapper made by him, I always wanted to do that Cubanesque style cigar, move in that direction, and have it taste like chocolate and espresso and cinnamon.
Everything you like in a
all the
cigar.
things I loved in drinking. You know, when I go to Starbucks on our motorcycle ride every Saturday, I love drinking my mocha. I wanted my cigar to taste like that, and different people asked to make me a cigar. They say, you have a great brand, I want to make your cigar. And I really didn't connect with any of the cigar manufacturers, and I really felt a loyalty to Manuel, and I said, when Manuel makes a cigar that is of this ability to taste like this, I'll do it with him. And when he did Casa Magna, I said, let's go for it, let's make a great cigar.
A version.
And I'm so proud of the cigar, and I told him, take your time, I don't want to rush you guys. Use the best tobacco. I know I can count on you for consistency because the cigar will taste, with his cigars, it will taste the same if you buy it in 97 as it does in 2007. It's remarkable because of his experience as a tobacco merchant and his warehouse full of leaf. He's a big believer in aging tobacco and warehousing and investing in tobacco. It's his life, it's his blood. So this is why the consistency, and I wanted that kind of consistency in my brand. And I told him and this genius, Nestor Plasencia, who's making the cigar in Nicaragua for us with Manuel, and they sent me 10 different blends, and all my buddies got it together. We smoked them all, and we all agreed on the one blend, and that became the Daniel Marshall Red Label.
And then, while you were working in Europe, he does a show in Europe, which is basically a version of our trade show, except that it's dialed up to a much higher level. All the cigars basically are, almost everybody there is selling Cuban cigars, and all of the world of accessories that revolve around that. So the Dortmund show, you have these people who are selling your cigar and your humidors, and they tell you, we need something special. Danny decides that the thing to do is to make a gold cigar.
And you don't just eat it. As I say, we don't even smoke cigars, we taste cigars. And this is a particular cigar, you guys, that you don't eat and you don't just look at it, but you actually can smoke it. And it leaves a golden ash. The gold stays on the ash as you smoke it. Put it in the ashtray. And if your wife ever complains about why you're buying a gold cigar, you can always tell her, we can take this to the jeweler, melt the ash, and make you a ring. Immediately, the argument's over.